August 14th, 1985. Officer Michael Chen sat in his patrol car outside a shopping mall in Sacramento, California, finishing paperwork from a traffic stop. It was 3:47 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon. The mall was crowded with back-to-school shoppers, families with children, teenagers, elderly couples. Michael was 31 years old, a 7-year veteran of the Sacramento Police Department. He was looking forward to his shift ending in an hour so he could get home to his wife and two young daughters. Then Michael heard screaming coming from inside the mall. He grabbed his radio, reported a possible disturbance, and ran toward the entrance. What Michael found inside would save 100 lives. What happened to Michael afterward will break your heart. Inside the mall, chaos had erupted. A structural support beam on the second floor had failed, causing a section of the upper level to collapse onto the ground floor below. The collapse had happened near the food court, the most crowded area of the mall. Dozens of people were trapped under debris, others were injured and trying to escape. The collapse had also ruptured a gas line. Michael could smell natural gas filling the air. He knew immediately that the situation was catastrophic. If that gas ignited, the entire mall could explode. Everyone inside would die. Michael's training told him to wait for backup and evacuate the area. But Michael looked at the situation and made a different calculation. The gas smell was getting stronger by the second. Fire crews were at least 10 minutes away. In 10 minutes, the gas concentration could reach explosive levels. Anyone still inside the mall when that happened would die. Michael had maybe 5 minutes to get people out. Maybe less. He made his decision. He was going to evacuate the mall himself. Michael ran to the main entrance and started directing people toward the exits. Everyone out! Now! Gas leak. Move quickly but don't run. People heard the authority in his voice and responded. They started moving toward the exits, but Michael could see that the main exits were clogged with people trying to leave at once. Panic was setting in. People were pushing. A bottleneck was forming. At this rate, not everyone would get out in time. Michael ran deeper into the mall against the flow of people evacuating. He found side exits and emergency exits that most people didn't know about. He started directing groups toward these alternate exits, spreading the evacuation across multiple exit points. This way, follow me, emergency exit. Michael's voice echoed through the mall corridors. People followed him. He led groups of 20 or 30 people at a time to side exits, got them outside, then ran back in for more. Michael made 7 trips into the mall. Each time he went back in, the gas smell was stronger. Each time he knew he was risking his life. On his 4th trip, another section of the upper level collapsed. Michael was nearly hit by falling debris, but he kept going. There were still people inside, elderly people who couldn't move quickly, parents searching for children who had gotten separated, store employees who were trying to help customers. Michael found them all. He helped an elderly woman in a wheelchair navigate to an exit. He found 3 children huddled in a store, terrified and crying, separated from their parents. He carried one child and led the other 2 by hand to safety, then ran back in. On his 7th trip into the mall, Michael found a group of people trapped behind debris from the collapse. They couldn't reach any of the exits. Michael could hear them calling for help. He could have left them. Backup had arrived. Firefighters were on scene. He could have told the firefighters where the trapped people were and let them handle it. But Michael knew the gas concentration was critical. He could see lights flickering. Any electrical spark could ignite the gas. These people needed to get out now. Michael climbed over the debris. His hands were cut and bleeding. His uniform was torn. He reached the trapped group. 12 people huddled in what had been a clothing store. The front of the store was blocked by concrete and steel from the collapsed upper level. But Michael found a back hallway that led to a service corridor. He led the 12 people through the service corridor to a loading dock exit. They emerged into the sunlight just as Michael heard a sound that made his blood run cold. A whooshing noise, gas igniting somewhere inside the mall. Michael pushed the last person out of the loading dock and threw himself outside just as an explosion ripped through the mall interior. The blast wave threw Michael 20 feet. He hit the pavement hard and lost consciousness. When he woke up, he was in an ambulance. His ears were ringing. His body felt like it was on fire. But he was alive, and so was everyone he'd evacuated. Michael later learned that he had personally led 107 people out of the mall. Every single person inside the mall when the collapse happened had survived. 0 fatalities. It was being called a miracle. Michael Chen was being called a hero. The media covered the story extensively for about a week. Michael gave a few interviews. He said he'd just done his job. The mayor gave him a commendation. The police chief recommended him for the Medal of Valor. Michael's photo was in newspapers. He was on the local evening news. People recognized him on the street and thanked him. For a brief moment, Michael Chen was famous, and then the medical bills started arriving. Michael had been injured in the explosion. He had a severe concussion, 3 cracked ribs, burns on his arms and back, hearing damage. But worse than the physical injuries was what happened over the following months. Michael started having panic attacks, nightmares. He would wake up smelling gas, convinced his house was about to explode. He couldn't go into crowded buildings without feeling overwhelming anxiety. His doctor diagnosed him with PTSD and recommended therapy. Michael's police department had insurance, but the coverage for mental health treatment was limited. Michael started paying for therapy out of pocket. The costs added up quickly. Michael tried to return to work after 3 months of medical leave, but he couldn't do the job anymore. The panic attacks made it impossible. Being in his patrol car triggered memories of that day. Responding to emergencies triggered anxiety so severe he couldn't function. After 6 months, Michael's supervisors told him he needed to either return to full duty or resign. Michael couldn't return to full duty. His PTSD was too severe. He resigned from the police department in March 1986, and at 7 months after saving 100 lives. Without his police salary, Michael struggled financially. The medical bills from his injuries weren't fully covered by insurance. He owed thousands of dollars. The therapy he needed for PTSD cost $150 per session twice a week. Michael took a job as a security guard. The pay was a fraction of what he had made as a police officer. His wife took a second job. They struggled to pay their mortgage. The man who had been celebrated as a hero 7 months earlier was now struggling to feed his family. Michael applied for workers' compensation, arguing that his PTD was a direct result of his actions saving lives during the mall collapse. The claim was denied. The Workers' Comp Board ruled that Michael's injuries were not severe enough to prevent him from working and that his resignation had been voluntary. Michael appealed. The appeal was denied. He had no legal recourse. The medical bills continued to pile up. In 1987, Michael and his wife declared bankruptcy. They lost their house. They moved into a small apartment. The hero who had saved 100 lives was now broke and broken. Michael's story could have ended there, forgotten and tragic. But in 1993, a journalist who had covered the original mall collapse story was doing a follow-up piece on Where Are They Now for several local heroes from the 1980s. The journalist tracked down Michael Chen and was shocked by what he found. Michael was working 2 jobs, as a security guard during the day and a convenience store clerk at night, still trying to pay off medical debt from injuries sustained while saving lives. The journalist wrote a story. Whatever happened to Officer Michael Chen? The story went viral, at least by 1993 standards. Local news picked it up. National news picked it up. People were outraged. How could a hero who saved 100 lives be abandoned like this? How could the system fail someone so completely? A GoFundMe-style fundraising campaign was organized, though it wasn't called that in 1993. Community members donated. The 107 people Michael had saved from the mall were contacted. Many of them contributed. Over $75,000 was raised, enough to pay off Michael's medical debt and give him a small financial cushion. The publicity also led to changes. California passed legislation improving workers' compensation coverage for first responders with PTSD. The Sacramento Police Department revised its policies on medical leave and mental health support. Michael Chen's suffering had led to reforms that would help other officers, but those reforms came too late for Michael. 8 years of financial struggle and untreated PTSD had taken their toll. Michael's marriage had ended in divorce. His relationship with his daughters was strained. His health had deteriorated. The fundraising money helped, but it couldn't give Michael back the 8 years he'd lost. Michael Chen died in 2018 at age 64. Heart attack. His obituary mentioned that he had been a police officer and had saved lives during the 1985 mall collapse. It mentioned his 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren. It did not mention the 8 years of financial ruin. It did not mention the PTSD that had destroyed his career. It did not mention that the hero who saved 100 lives had been abandoned by the system he served. At Michael's funeral, 57 of the people he'd saved attended. Some were elderly now. Some brought their children and grandchildren. They told Michael's daughters that their father was a hero, that everything they had, every moment of their lives after August 14th, 1985, existed because of what Michael Chen had done. Michael's daughters were grateful for the words, but they also wished that more people had said those words when their father was alive and struggling, when recognition and support might have helped him rebuild his life. Today there is a small memorial plaque in the Sacramento Mall that was rebuilt after the collapse. It mentions that Officer Michael Chen saved 107 lives on August 14, 1985. It does not mention what happened to him afterward. It does not mention the price he paid for his heroism. It does not tell the full story. This is the full story. Officer Michael Chen saved 100 lives and then spent 8 years struggling with PTSD and poverty, while the system that should have supported him failed him completely. He was a hero. He deserved better. We all failed him. This is what happened to the cop who saved 100 people in 1985. And yes, it breaks your heart because it should.